hope you've been enjoying our not-for-profit series. So far we've covered off setting up and maintaining a not-for-profit, the finance function, keeping your information updated with the various agencies that need to know. Today I'm going to cover some aspects of governance, and in particular I'm going to take you through what are the principles of good governance. Governance is a set of systems that direct and control. In other words, they govern an organisation. It's a set of principles and policies that the board will abide by and the management will abide by, and it helps to make sure that the organisation is running smoothly and doing what it needs to be doing. Boards with good governance have efficient and effective control over whatever's happening. So governance is not necessarily about what size you are, how big or small your board is. It's more about the principles that the board adopts in order to maintain that control and be an effective organisation. The Australian Institute of Company Directors, also known as the AICD, has a set of principles out there. They call it the 10 Principles of Good Governance for not-for-profits. It's a really useful document and it's available on their website, and we will put a link to that on our website. Today I'm going to briefly run through those 10 principles, and just to give you a bit of a taster and see what it is that a board really needs to be doing. Purpose and strategy is about what the organisation is going to do and how it's going to do it. This is usually contained, the purpose is contained in the constitution or other governing document of the organisation. So purpose is what the organisation wants to do. Strategy is how it's going to be done. Board is usually involved in setting up strategy along with management, but is also responsible for overseeing that strategy is achieving the purpose. This is quite straightforward, really. This is about everybody knowing what they're meant to be doing on the board and how they're doing it. So who's responsible for what? Who's the treasurer? Who's the chair? That sort of thing. It's about maintaining a level of delineation between directors so that everyone's got a role to play and they're playing their correct role. It's good governance to keep the role of the board separate from the role of management. This isn't always possible with the smaller not-for-profits, usually made up by volunteers who do everything. However, when there is a management and an employee base, that separation of responsibilities is excellent and should be adhered to as much as you can. Board composition is about ensuring the right people for the job. So making sure that the board is made up of people who understand what the organisation is about and having the correct number of people and how long they're on for. Everyone's clear about tenure. It's also really important to have some staggering of timeframes that people are on the board. So if terms are for 3 years, you don't want everybody finishing at the end of 3 years. You need that corporate knowledge to be maintained by staggering rotation of directors. But rotation is important, as is clear and defined tenure terms. Board appointments should be made on merit and in accordance with the skills that are required. A useful tool for this is a skills matrix where the board can see what skills are required to ensure that their organisation is being run well and make sure that those roles are filled. That may change over time too as the organisation evolves, so it's important that that document is a living document. Board effectiveness is all about making sure that the board meetings are run really well, that they're chaired effectively, that directors all have an opportunity to make a contribution, and that the decisions that are made are well documented and recorded so that all know what's happened at that board meeting. It's important that board members all receive induction into the organisation. This may be something fairly small, on a small not-for-profit, just a bit of a rundown by the chair, right through to visiting sites and getting to know the operations a little, just at a superficial level in a bigger organisation. As well, directors need to make sure that they're getting ongoing training in areas that they're working in. So if your speciality is in the finance function, that you are up to date with the requirements in order to fulfil your role. Good governance requires boards to be managing risk. Risk is generally managed by a risk management framework whereby the board and management have identified those aspects of the business that do present risk to them, and that is generally reported on. So directors need to be informed of what those risk is and understand how management are controlling that. A board will often have a risk committee, might be tied up with audit as well or not, depends on the number of directors, but it's often a good idea to have risk as an area that is focused on every board meeting, and that outside the board meetings, the risk committee are also meeting with management to ensure that those items are covered off. Performance is really all about the financial side of things. It's a significant part of the board's role and requires oversight of budgeting, reporting of financials, and making sure that the organisation is solvent. It's very important. Directors have a responsibility for the solvency of an organisation, and that responsibility is personal, so everyone needs to be taking an interest in that. Having said that, there's always a treasurer, and usually as well there'll be a finance or an audit committee, or both, maybe combined with risk, as I said before. These committees take special responsibility for that function, but overall all directors are responsible and need to understand the financial aspects of the organisation. It's important to keep management accountable to their budget, and in that aspect as well, the board is also responsible for overseeing the performance of the CEO. You may well have a separate committee that looks after that as well, in terms of making sure that performance reviews happen and that the CEO does have a set of key performance indicators that he or she needs to meet. This one, as the title suggests, requires that people are all open and that documents that are publicly available are clear and easy to access. Members should have opportunity to review those documents, should also be able to ask questions of the board. So the membership of an organisation has a clear and direct ability to understand what's going on in the organisation and to expect that the board is acting in the best interests of the organisation. So the board does need to be accountable to the members of the organisation, and also accountable to the public for what its governing documents say it's going to do. The board accountability runs right throughout the year, each and every year, but there is a formal process every year at the annual general meeting, which is the main opportunity when members can ask their questions and have them answered. There's usually will be notices of the AGM that are sent out, so members understand and know when their opportunity is going to come up, and usually those AGMs are held in a place where it's accessible for members. This is all about understanding who are the people that have an interest in the organisation, the stakeholders. So this will be anyone from clients to members to all the board members, perhaps government if services are being provided. It's about the relationship with these people. That's the key thing, that the board has a really good understanding of how those relationships are being managed, and that we all know what the needs and requirements of those different stakeholders are. It's critical to reputation and to making sure that we're being seen to be doing what we say we're going to do. Stakeholder management also includes making sure that the organisation has clear policies around working with and protecting vulnerable people. This is actually now a legal requirement in Tasmania, so it's important that that's understood and well documented. When stakeholder management is done well, your stakeholders can be your best advocates, so it's important to get this one right. As the name suggests, this is all about making sure that we're doing the right thing, but not only that we're doing the right thing, that we're being seen to be doing the right thing. There's a difference, and it's important to get both of them right. It's absolutely essential that a board understands conflicts of interest that may exist, not only at a board level but also at a staff level. Conflicts of interest need to be declared and they need to be managed. Sometimes conflicts of interest may mean that a board director can't be involved in a decision, and that's really important. Also, in relation to those sorts of things, transactions with related parties need to be identified as well, and make sure that it's important that the board understands that there might be related parties involved and make sure there's no real conflict in that relationship. Boards also need to have a process for dealing with misconduct. This may be at a staff level or a director level. Misconduct needs to be dealt with efficiently and effectively, and if it is within the staffing levels, then it needs to be managed appropriately in terms of with employment law and reported to the board whenever this occurs. Culture has been a big focus for boards for the last couple of years in Australia. It was noticed in a review done a couple of years ago that it had fallen off the agenda, or maybe it had never been on the agenda for some organisations. It's really important that the board models the culture that's going to assist the strategy and make sure that the organisation is operating in its best possible way. So boards need to have culture on their agenda, need to be making sure that the people that they have in their employ are the best people for the kind of culture that they want. So it really does become an important aspect to what the board is doing, because it permeates every part of the not-for-profit's activities, right from internal functions to client-facing functions. So culture is very important. I hope you have got something out of that. As I said at the beginning, brief summary of the 10 principles of good governance as set out by the AICD. Please go and have a look via the link on our website to the AICD website, where there are a number of really useful tools in there, and there's a good summary document. There's also a really much longer document if you really want to get your studying hat on and learn about these things. Thanks for watching.